Once again, good morning to everybody. In the last session, we looked into how to what are the steps involved in starting a small scale enterprise, and we looked into different steps that are required to start a small or a micro enterprises, or you can call it as a small scale industry. So where it involves project selection, registration of the organization, the small scale temporary registration, and later permanent registration, licensing, all those things are involved. The finance, whatever is the finance that is required by the small scale enterprise to start with. What are the sources of the finance, and what are the technical requirement, like what kind of a technology is required, what kind of a help entrepreneur can get in that particular area. Then trainings, if entrepreneur seeks training in any part, whether it is marketing a product or a particular technology, or various issues related to the organization, he can get trained. He can get trained using the EDPs, or entrepreneur development programs. Then infrastructure facilities, how to set up all those things, raw material requirement, how to source it, then how to select from the different vendors, identifying the right vendor for supplying, and also making sure that the it is of the right quality. Plant and machineries, uh, acquiring the plant and machineries required for the small scale enterprises, who will provide the machinery, identifying the suppliers, different suppliers, and also identifying the installation and post installation support from the suppliers. Then marketing information, that involves market research, from market research to then once the product is ready, making actual marketing and sales. All these are the different areas that entrepreneur has to work when he is starting a small enterprise. And here are the list of agencies, list of government agencies. Okay, these are the state level agencies, different institutes that can support in respective area project selection. These are the different organizations from the state government which will help in project selection, and national level agencies. These are the, we have both state as well as the national level agencies which can help entrepreneur in these different areas. So these are the different areas. And as I told you before, the state level agency, DIC, if you are not sure where to approach, DIC is the one place which will take care of the most of these things. Okay, or they will direct you to the right kind of agencies. Next, we'll look into the government policy, industrial policy resolution, IPR. So, when after the independence, when India thought about the development, it thought about the economical development, how to do that. So, it came up with the industrial policy resolution. The first resolution that came up was in 1947. So, this industrial policy resolution, they came up with a certain strategy to make development in particular area of the economy. In 1947, India adopted economic planning as a method to achieve the economic development. So, economic planning was the method which India wanted to have, so that they can achieve the required economic development. The pattern of planning that came to be accepted was a mixed type, meaning thereby the industrial units in the public as well as the private sector will be operating in the economy. So the pattern of planning that was accepted during that time was not only the public sector companies. Okay, public sector companies where are the companies where there is a government stake. Okay, government has a stake, and it is initiated by the government. Maybe it is a central government or the state government. These are the public companies. They chose to have a combination of both public as well as the private companies. Private companies are the ones who are which are completely owned by the private peoples. It could be partnership or any kind of a organization it is, but it is completely owned by the private people, and government do not have any stake in those particular private companies. So India thought of having both public as well as private to achieve the economical development. And when they gave the private sector, so they gave certain sectors were given where private people can do the investment and start the companies. There were certain areas or the sectors that was kept under the government. For example, like defense. Defense is the one. Recently, if you see, liberalization is happening. Some of these things are being in the defense sectors also. Some of these things are given to the private sector. And another example is the railway. Railway was predominantly it was a government agency. Now certain parts of certain areas of the railways are being privatized. So they are allowing to operate the private sector on certain routes or certain departments of the railways. So slowly, as government feels there is a need, it will keep on changing its policies, and accordingly it will allow the private sector. The mixed nature of the economy meant that on crucial areas the policy of the government was decisive, and changes therein were in great relevance to industrial units. So this is the mixed nature of the economy that so government had a control through the policies, and also it decided on what sectors to be privatized and what sectors to be kept under the government bodies. In the field of industry, government's objectives and intentions were announced through the five industrial policy resolutions or IPRs. So, um, the whatever the government wants intended to do, its intention, its objectives, those objectives came through the IPRs. So, industrial policy resolutions. The 1947 policy that came up, it was predominantly to because India had just got the independence, and the small scale industry was huge in at that particular time, and it wanted to protect the small scale industry, so that the whatever the job that was generated by that small scale sector, that can be kept alive, and that is protected, so that we get lot of employment opportunities. So these resolutions were announced in 1948, 1956, 1977, 1980, 1990. So each of these IPRs, they are brought up with a certain a strategy, certain intention, certain objective by the government. As I told you, in 1948 IPR, this particular IPR predominantly it was done with the one sole objective of protecting the small scale industry. The industrial sector in 1948 was not different from the one existing in pre 1947 days, and hence the small scale SSI sector meant mainly rural industrial units, small job come repair shops, units making agricultural improvements, few urban small units, and handloom units weaving the cloth. So during 1948, it was not much different from the pre-independence. Predominantly, the economy had the very small rural industrial setups, and small shops, repair shops. Okay, then units making agricultural tools, and there were small units of in the urban area, and handlooms were there. Handlooms was predominantly there, which was weaving the cloth. That was the structure during 1948. The greatest economic significance of these units to the Indian economy was their employment potential. So these, because these small scale industry, they require a lot of human resources. These were the main areas or the main sector which will provide the employment for the people. So it was this potential which called for the protection through the policy, and the main thrust of IPR 1948 as far as the small scale sector was concerned was a protection. So protecting the existing small scale industries, that includes all small repair shop, small units that manufactured agricultural tools, handloom sector, all these things. The main intention of IPR 1948 was to make sure that all these industries are protected, so that there is a greater potential for the employment. Next one is the IPR 1956. The second IPR, the first IPR 1948, it was focused more on the protection of the small scale industry. The next IPR 1956, the intention here is the protection was achieved to greatest extent, and with 1956, the strategy and the objective and the intention was to protect as well as make the development in the small scale sector. The second IPR was announced against the background of the bolder second 5-year plan with a long-term strategy for industrial and economic development. As to the small scale industry sector, the resolution envisaged a dual role: manufacture of the consumer goods such as cloth, that is one aspect, and manufacture of the components for the newly established industry as part of the program for long-term industrial development. So first part was the producing the consumer goods such as cloth and other equipments, and second was manufacturing the components for the other industries, that we call it as a ancillary units, creating more ancillary units that will help the other industry, so that in long term India can achieve a greater industrial development. Thus the earlier emphasis of protection was added development. Industrial policy for SSI aimed at protection plus development. So this particular 1956 IPR was focused on the protection as well as the development. IPR 1956 in a manner initiated the modern SSI in India. So that vision of IPR 1956 actually that laid the foundation for the today's modern small scale industry sector. The next is the IPR 1977. In this, the past two IPRs, the first one focused predominantly on the protection, and second one, 1956, it focused on protection and there was considerable amount of the development that was seen through the previous IPR. So IPR 1977 was rolled out with the idea of protection, development, as well as the promotion. The reason being the industrial development that has occurred until 1977, it predominantly focused on the urban areas, and it created a imbalance. Okay, imbalance in the rural and the urban areas. So in order to balance out that difference, the uh, IPR 1977 focused on the promotion in the semi-urban and the rural areas for the starting of the small scale industries. Development of large, medium, and small scale industries had become more of an urban phenomena, right? Because they focused more on the urban areas, and it became all the industries were concentrated on the urban areas. And the other was a large scale unemployment. The issue of urban and rural, educated and uneducated unemployed had started becoming difficult. So this created a lot of issues with the unemployment. This situation led to a renewed emphasis on the promotion of typical employment generating small scale industry located in the rural areas and small towns. So This created a they gave a this particular situation gave a opportunity for the emphasis of putting the small scale industry in the semi-urban or the rural areas, which will generate lot of employment. As we know, the small scale industries, they always require lot of human resources. So they started promoting the small scale industries to be set up in the urban and the semi-urban and the rural areas. So government came up with a lot of policy changes in this particular IPR, where they promoted they came up with a lot of promotion program incentives for setting up the SSI in rural and the semi-urban areas. As a formula, it was a scale of output should be small, location semi-urban or rural, and technology and labor intensive. So this is the formula that looked for the output produced by the industry should be small, and the location should be either rural or semi-urban, and local technology, and that particular industry should be labor intensive, so that more people can be employed. This was the IPR which assigned a positive role to SSI in terms of wage employment of workers and self-employment of the entrepreneur. So this IPR helped many people who are interested in having the self-employment and being a entrepreneur. This IPR offered wider perception to policies and programs for the SSI development. So it re-emphasized the SSI development in the areas, especially rural and the semi-urban areas. To the earlier thrust of protection, that is IPR 1948, and development, that is IPR 1956, this resolution added promotion, means promoting the small scale industry in rural and semi-urban areas. The SSI sector was thus to be protected, developed, and promoted. That was the idea of the IPR 1977. Next is the IPR 1980. This IPR re-emphasized the spirit of the IPR 1956 with the strategy of large scale. So it emphasized 1956, it focused on the development. So 1980 IPR focused on the large scale, okay, and high technology, heavy investment. Basically, it focused more on the large scale industries, because 1977 IPR provided a lot of provision for the promotion of the small scale industries in rural and semi-urban. 1980 IPR, it gave more focus on the large scale industries. Nevertheless, the SSI sector remained as perhaps the best sector for generating the wage and self-employment based opportunities in India. So even though there was a emphasis on the large scale industries, the small scale industry is the one which provided the most of the employment. But there is a requirement of the large scale industries, huge investment to see the growth of the country, which will accelerate the growth of the country. So the small scale industry as well as the large scale industry should be promoted, so that there is a larger economical development, and also the small sector will help with the employment, and the large scale sector which will help with the production, even though the employment generation is relatively small compared to the small scale industry, but that can help in the large scale production, and if there is any surplus, that can be exported to the other countries, which will generate a valuable foreign currency. IPR 1990. This IPR was announced during 1990. The basic aim is to introduce measure of economic liberalization and simplified rules and procedures with view to enhancing the technological base of industry and accomplishing higher levels of output. So here, 1990, it was more focused on the economic liberalization. So India came up with a lot of things, and many things were liberalized, means many sectors were opened for local as well as the foreign investment. So One way of the liberalization, I told the example, is the opening of the defense sector. Okay, earlier it was totally under the government. Then slowly they started opening up some of the things of the defense as well as the railways and many other sectors. It gave a special emphasis on the SSI, SSC sector where employment opportunities are likely to be high. So if you consider all the IPRs, always there is a emphasis on the small scale industry because that is the one which generate lot of employment. In order to enable the SSI units to update their technology, the investment limit of SSI has been raised to rupees 60 lakhs. With IPR 1990, in order to have the small scale industry to enhance their technology or do the more improvements, their investment limit was raised to 60 lakhs. Impact of WTO GATT on SSI. So, how in 1995 WTO World Trade Organization it was established. Many countries consulted, and they thought of setting up a World Trade Organization, which will help in the economic development of all the countries, and which will also act like a interface between the countries, and also make certain changes like liberalizing countries economy, so that it will open up doors for the other country. So WTO, when India signed WTO, when it became the member of the WTO, it was an opportunity as well as the threat, because it was a threat even though the market has increased to the global level, the competitiveness has to increase in the small scale industry so that they can compete with the other small scale industries which are present in the other countries. Okay, so that is a huge opportunity as well as a huge threat. The challenges to the small scale sector are due to impact of the agreements under World Trade Organization. So how it impacted the small scale industry. The setting up of the WTO in 1995 has altered the framework of international trade towards non-distortive market-oriented policies. Okay, this is in keeping with the policy shift that occurred worldwide in favor of the free market forces and tilt away from the state regulation intervention in economic activity. So, where the motive comes from for the World Trade Organization is having a free market in the sense any country should be able to sell any kind of a production another country's market. That is a free market. There should not be any restrictions and regulations from the state agencies, right? So that was the intention. So not taking completely away, but making the regulations uniform and more tilted towards the free market, which will help the trade between the different countries. This is likely to lead to an expansion in volume of international trade and changes in the pattern of commodity flows. So definitely with this, the trade that happens in the international trade will definitely increase in the volume, and also the it will help many countries which are having a competitive edge on certain sectors. The main outcome of the WTO stipulated requirements will be brought about through reduction in export subsidies, greater market access, removal of non-tariff barriers, reduction in tariffs. So these are the some of the things. One is export subsidies. Some of the countries they were giving subsidies, means they were encouraging the exporters by giving the government subsidies, and they were encouraging those people. So with World Trade Organization agreement, there has to be a reduction. Why there has to be reduction is few countries that doesn't give any kind of a subsidies to make everybody competitive. So they have to, every country has to reduce the subsidies in certain exports they are providing. Another thing is greater market access. If all the economies were whoever signed the WTO, they had to open up their markets so that any sector is accessible to the foreign countries or the foreign trades. Removal of non-tariff barriers. So some of the countries, they used to put the non-tariff barriers. Okay, so those has to be reduced, and reduction in the tariffs. Some of the countries, they will put high tariffs on the import. Okay, so if they want to want to reduce the import in certain sector, one of the measures they will use the increase the tariffs. So reduction in those tariffs. This is across all the countries. That is how uh, the market will become open market, which is easily accessible by everybody, and free international trade can happen. There will also be tighter patent laws through the regulation of intellectual property rights under trade-related intellectual property rights agreements, which laid down what is to be patented for what duration and on what terms. Also, there was a greater restriction on the patent laws, and this WTO will decide what is to be patented and for what duration, how long it can be patented. For example, some of the patents that are in the pharmacy industry, because pharmacy industry, they put lot of research, a lot of investment in research, and they come up with the medicine for some of the prevailing diseases. When they patent, they are given for like let's say 15 years of patent, 15 or 20 years patent. After that period, that particular technology will be open for all. So you must have heard about the generic medicine, right? Many generic medicine shops are coming. Generic medicines are the result of once the patent duration ends, then that particular technology would be available to all the pharmaceutical companies. So these companies take those technology or the formula, and they produce. So that is how generic medicines are. They cost less because they wait for the patent to get over, and they work on those patents, and they produce. That is how generic medicines um, are less expensive compared to the other the ones which are patented. There is a lot of investment that happens in the R&D. So to recover that R&D cost and the production cost, the cost of those medicines will be relatively higher. Increased market access to imports will mean opening up the domestic market to large flows of imports. Okay, this is one of the things, one of the impacts of the WTO. The removal of quantitative restrictions on imports of these items will soon be freed from all restriction, as announced in the import-export policy. That is another factor. Increased market access will also mean that our industry can compete for export markets of both developed and developing countries. So it will give an opportunity where our industries can compete with the other industries, and also they increase their export. But the expected surge in our exports can come about only if SSI sector is restructured to meet the demands of global competitiveness, which is the key to the future of small scale industry in present context. So along to compete with the global companies, a lot of changes has to be brought in the small scale industry. It has to be restructured so that it will become competitive, right? In terms, whether in terms of a quality, whether in terms of a the market access, the whole small scale industry needs to be restructured. Government policies will help in restructuring a small scale sector so that they become competitive with the global companies. SSIs have to face threat and also avail opportunity owing to the WTO and its agreements. So there are both threats as well as the opportunities. Hello, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so now with the WTO and its agreement, both SSI had both threats as well as the opportunities. The main opportunities of the WTO are classified into three. The first one is the national treatment of.
Sir, screen not.
Okay, is it visible now?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. First one is the national treatment of exportable items across the countries all over the world with better market access through the internet. So this is the first opportunity. The second one is enlightened entrepreneurs have greater opportunity to benefit from their comparative advantages due to lowering of the tariffs and dismantling of other restriction because when the entrepreneur because the many of the tariffs were reduced and many restrictions were removed, the market became more competitive. So the enlightened entrepreneurs means the entrepreneurs who are very good in assessing such opportunities. It gave a big advantage for that kind of entrepreneurs and that kind of industries. And finally, industries that are in contest, in constant touch with the government, with in turn negotiates in their best interest in the ongoing dialogue with the World Trade Organizations are going to benefit. Also, like there are certain industries who think they are going to get benefited, so they started negotiating their terms through the government body with the World Trade Organization. India has a real chance of becoming superpower in the service sector, particularly IT. As we know, India has become like it is superpower with a huge control over the service sector, especially the IT industry. It has already captured about 25% of the world exports. So India is the biggest exporters in the IT sector. Next, we'll see the case study. Some of the case study, one case study we have already looked into, that is Air Deccan, Captain Gopinath. He is the entrepreneur. We looked into that particular case study, how Air Deccan, in a very short period, they were like a major competitor in the aviation sector, and also their strategy was to use the low tariff. So the low tariff was the key for the success of the Air Deccan. Today we will see another success story, that is NR Narayan Murthy, Infosys. Okay. So as we know, Infosys is I would say it is India's big IT company, as well as it is has a global presence. It is present in many countries. It has development centers in many countries, ranging from North America to Europe, Asia. So it has development centers and offices in many countries. Infosys was founded by, as you all of you know, Narayan Murthy and a few of his colleagues. It was a great success story. That time, the major leader in the IT sector was in India was TCS. They could able to compete with the TCS, and they could able to make the company growth in such a way that it became one of the top companies, not only in India, top companies in India, but also it is recognized globally as the great company. So Infosys, some of the awards that has been given here: India's best managed company, Business Today, and India's most admired company, role model in corporate governance, that is Forbes, world's most respected companies. Okay, Financial Times, FT. amongst the 40 companies that are reshaping the global economy, Wired magazine. So this is considered as one of the 40 companies which is reshaping the globe. Okay, what is the background of the company? As I told you, it is founded by Shri N.R. Narayan Murthy and his colleagues in 1981. Now its client lists are many are there, which are for Fortune 500 companies. And India, Infosys is the first company which got listed in the excuse me, which got listed in the Nasdaq stock market. Nasdaq stock market is the US stock market, and they got listed in that particular stock market. And Infosys has a global footprint with 65 offices and 74 development centers in many countries like US, India, China, Australia, Japan, Middle East, UK, Germany, France, Switzerland. So basically, they have many offices in the North America and Europe and some of the like Asian countries. So their presence is there in all the major countries. Infosys and its subsidiaries have 1,49,994 employees. This is as of 2012. The stats. This is as per the older stat 2013. Infosys takes a pride in building strategic long-term client relationship. 97.8% of the revenues come from the existing customers. So this is the background of the company. The vision is will be globally respected corporation. That is the vision of the Infosys. Then strategic partnership for building the tomorrow's enterprise. That is the mission. Client value to surpass client expectation consistently. One of the key factors about Infosys is the in whatever the client expectations, it meets them. Not only it meets them, it exceeds their expectation. So that is how the Infosys has built its credibility with the client. Many client, they choose Infosys because of their reliability. Okay, they know whatever the projects taken up by the Infosys are done not only to the 100% of their expectation, they provide the service beyond the expectation. That is how it has built a great credibility among the all the client, and that is also one of the factors when certain client is choosing the vendors for doing certain project. So that credibility also plays an important role. So leadership by example. So this is very well understood by looking at the Mr. Narayan Murthy. So their style of leadership is by example. Like they themselves are put in such a role model way that is followed by many people to set standards in our business and transaction, to be an exemplar for the industry and ourselves. Integrity and transparency. This is one of the another key factor, integrity and the transparency. So whenever a certain company is doing a business, the integrity and the transparency that is in the organization is very, very crucial for the trust of the employees and the trust of the client. So when there is when a company is uh, highly respects its integrity, and it is very transparent in all its transaction, whatever it does, very transparent policies, it will have a great impact on the employees and also on the client, which will help in increasing its business. To be ethical, sincere, and open in all our transactions. Fairness, to be objective and transaction oriented, and thereby earn trust and respect. So, trust is a major factor when we are dealing with the business partners and the business customers. These are the milestone. Infosys is established by N.R. Narayan Murthy and six engineers in Pune, India, with initial capital of US dollar 250. Okay, $250. That is the initial investment. Sign up its first client, Data Basics Corporation in New York, opens first in international office in Boston, US, that is in 1987. You can see it started in 1981 as a very small investment, and by 1987, that is in 6 years, it has started its first international office in the Boston. Then acquires ISO 9001, that is the quality certification, ISO certified in 1993. Moves corporate headquarters to Electronic City, Bangalore. So it moves its headquarters from Pune to Bangalore. Opens first European office in UK and Global Development Center at Toronto and Bangalore. That is in 1995. And opens office in Toronto, Canada. Infosys is assessed CMM level 4 in 1997, and it touches a revenue of $100 million, and is listed in Nasdaq. Infosys becomes the 21st company in the world to achieve a CMM level 5. So if you see their constant focus on the quality, so they started with the ISO 9001 in 93. Okay, in 4 years they got the CMM level 4, and they become the 21st company to reach the CMM level 5. This shows the commitment of the Infosys towards the quality. Then these are the some of the new offices it opens in Germany, Sweden, Belgium, Australia, and 2 development centers in US. Then Infosys Business Consulting Services launched. So it starts the consulting services in the 1999. So 2000 touches revenue of $200 million. Then opens up a few more offices in Hong Kong, Global Development Center in Canada and UK, 3 development centers in US. Then relaunches Banks 2000, the universal banking solution from the US as Finacle. So this is the product, in-house built product by the Infosys, that is Banks 2000. Then by 2001, you can see the revenue has doubled, $400 million. Again, opens offices in UAE, Argentina, and the development center in Japan. N.R. Narayan Murthy is rated among the Time magazine, CNN's 25 most influential businessmen in the world. In 2002, the revenue touches to $500 million. Uh, Now, in 2002, Nandan Nilekani takes over as the CEO from Narayan Murthy. Okay, Narayan Murthy becomes the chairman and the chief mentor. And in 2002, it also opens offices in the Netherlands, Singapore, and Switzerland. These are the milestones in 2003. Establishes subsidiary in China and Australia. Okay, 2006, Infosys celebrates 25 years, and revenue becomes $2 billion, and employees grow by 50,000, more than 50,000. Narayan Murthy retires from the service of the company, turning 60. Board of Directors appoints him as additional director. He continues as a chairman and chief mentor of Infosys. In 2007, it crosses the revenue of $3 billion. Employees grow over 70,000. Okay. Uh, Chris Gopal Krishnan becomes the COO, and from COO he becomes the CEO. Then Mr. Nandan Nilekani is appointed as co-chairman of the board of directors. In 2010, Infosys crosses $5 billion revenue mark. Employees grows to 1 lakh. Narayan Murthy hands over chairmanship to KV Kamath in 2011, and Infosys revenue crosses $6 billion, and employees grows to 1 lakh 30,000. These are the different services offered by Infosys. These are the different sectors they provide their services. aerospace and defense, airlines, automotive, education, energy. So if you see, there are many sectors. The Infosys has the projects, and this is the growth. Okay, this is the growth in the income, and uh, this is profit after the tax. Okay, these are the, and if you see the revenue breakup, 45%, 45% of the revenue comes from the application development and maintenance. So this is actually a huge chunk where Infosys has earned by the applications development and the maintenance. Then 24% it comes from the consulting services and the package implementation. So if you see, those are the two predominant area constituting about three-fourth of its revenue. And also there are other industry, other sectors it works on, like business process management, BPM, product engineering services, infrastructure engagement, system integration, testing services, and products development. So if you see, it's a very small portion, 4%. So this is the strategy, global delivery model. The client location, they will have whenever they have any project, this is the strategy they use at client location. So the place of the client, they do the analysis and planning, high level design, user interface design, uh, project coordination, on-site testing, and implementation. And post implementation, they do the from client location, they do the support. And offshore development center, they will use project management, detailed design. So at client side, they do the high level design, they come up with all the user interface design, so that once the approval is received on those things, detailed design, coding, testing, documentation is done on the offshore. And post implementation support, they do the bug fixes, warranty support and maintenance on the offshore side. And on the client side, rapid reaction support. Rapid reaction support is in the sense like there are some issues, like some applications that whose availability should be 24 by 7, and that requires a immediate attention, right? So those such kind of a support will be given to the client site, because they are at the client, they are working with the client, they will be easily able to work on those. If there are any bug fixes which are not emergency, those are sent to the offshore. Projects are divided into components. This is the how they will do it: executed independently and concurrently at client side, and partly at the development centers which are offshore. The components are then integrated into high quality, robust solutions. Development centers that are spread across different countries allow Infosys to leverage time zones. Okay, if you see, there are development centers in Europe, in Asia, in US. So based on the client location, each of the development centers will coordinate in such a way that they can work for 24 hours a day. Means it is not the individual, it is the work for a particular client is done 24 into 7, means 24 hour work days. So they will leverage their development centers. By this model, project managers are ensured of total control. These are the strategic alliances by Infosys. They have alliance with all the major IT companies. Okay, Oracle, Microsoft, Sun Microsystems. Okay, these are the companies. SWOT analysis. Okay, we'll see the SWOT analysis in the next class.